She deserves respect, not you, my dad barked after I covered $72,000 of Laura's tuition and bills. I snapped, then let her pay for herself. That night, I canceled every single payment and watched their house of lies crumble. She deserves respect, not you, my dad barked after I covered $72,000 of Laura's tuition and bills. I snapped, then let her pay for herself. That night, I canceled every single payment and watched their house of lies crumble. My father squinted like he didn't really catch what I'd said. My sister Laura, who had been sitting there with her arms crossed like she was judging a game show, shifted uncomfortably, clearly surprised by my reply. My mother, she was already halfway through one of her long, disappointed exhales, the kind she usually gave when I didn't fall in line. But this time, I wasn't following the script. Let me rewind. I'm Thomas, age 34, the eldest, the quiet sibling, the one who unclogs the drain in the middle of the night and acts like he doesn't hear the relatives murmuring about how I never quite achieved anything. For years, I stayed quiet, worked long hours, handled my expenses, and theirs whenever they fell short, which was often. I quietly covered Laura's rent, grocery bills, and college fees. No praise expected, just quietly reducing stress for the family's shining star. But here's the thing. When you always help, people begin to treat it like it's your duty. It didn't happen all at once. It started small. My dad would say, "Laura's got real drive," or my mom would comment, "You're lucky, Thomas. You don't need much." And Laura? She absorbed their compliments like they were fuel, tossing me the occasional thanks like you'd nod at a server who brings you napkins without being asked. But everything changed one Sunday in March. Laura had just wrapped up another rant about how exhausting it was to be a student. Never mind she hadn't worked in years. Never mind I had secretly sent $2,500 to her school bill just days earlier. Then my dad turned toward me, eyes cold, and said, "You owe your sister an apology. She's earned respect, not you." Like that. As if everything I had done meant zero. As if only Laura deserved appreciation. I smiled and said, "All right, then she can pay her own school fees." The quiet after that? Perfect. What no one realized was that his remark, so casual and cruel, was the final push I needed. Not to scream, not to argue, but to walk away calmly and with purpose. So I did. No slammed doors, no yelling. I got up, carried my dish to the sink like always, and left my parents' house, fully aware it might be a long time before I returned. Outside, the air felt clearer, easier to breathe. Like I'd been carrying pressure in my chest for years, and someone had finally let it out. That evening, I sat down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. I signed into Laura's college portal. Yes, it was in my name, and unchecked the box for recurring payments. One click. Done. Next, I opened the accounts for the gas and electricity bills at my parents' place. The ones I'd been quietly paying each winter because they couldn't keep up with the heating costs. I switched the mailing info to their name and removed my credit card details. I was exact, focused. By the time I shut my laptop, I had ended every single money connection I had to them. Next morning, I ignored the family group message. Laura had posted a funny Monday meme with a coffee emoji. I guess my message hadn't sunk in yet, but that didn't last. 2 days later, my dad rang. First time in ages. He used his stern voice, the one that used to make me stand straight when I was a kid. "Thomas, I just got a notice from the college. Laura's tuition is overdue. What's going on?" I paused, letting the silence sit. "I told you," I said, "she can deal with it herself." "You're being childish," he snapped. "No," I replied. "I'm being fair." He hung up. That night, Laura called. She didn't yell. She cried. Said she didn't get why I was doing this. That school was already stressful. That she was doing her best. That life was too expensive. I could have said so much about the brand new iPhone she just bought, the late nights out, the food delivery charges I used to cover without her knowing. Instead, I just said, "Yeah, I know it's tough. You'll figure it out." Then I ended the call too. Across the following days, the fragile setup I had been maintaining started falling apart. The gas at my parents' house was disconnected for 2 whole days since the automatic billing didn't process. Laura's college enrollment got locked due to an unpaid charge. My mom rang to check if I had mistakenly stopped the transfer. Mistakenly? I chose not to reply. I picked up extra hours at work, not out of pressure, but because I finally felt like it. With no one draining my bank account anymore, I watched my savings increase for the first time in forever. I finally planned a small break for myself, just a weekend in a cabin up north. No Wi-Fi, just nature and quiet. It was like remembering how to breathe again. While I explored what actual freedom felt like, my relatives were just beginning to realize what my quiet presence had been funding. By the time the week ended, their silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was sharp, like the sky right before heavy rain. I could sense them brewing, thinking, designing some new way to guilt-trip me back into the role they preferred. As expected, Sunday came again along with a message. Dinner at 6. We need to speak, Dad. Not a polite request. A command. The tone I'd grown up obeying without question. This time, I didn't answer. Instead, I went shopping, picked out good steaks, grilled them medium rare, ate while watching a film about people who broke free from controlling groups. The comparison didn't escape me. On Monday, I saw 3 missed calls from my mom and 1 from Laura. Laura left a voicemail. Her tone was soft, almost like she had practiced it a few times before recording. Hey, I know there's been tension. Dad, he just says things, you know, but I really need help, Thomas. They blocked my college account. I can't sign up for next semester. Can we talk? She didn't sound regretful, just scared. I'll be honest. There was a flicker of emotion in me, but it left quickly. I remembered her laughing over dinner months back, joking that she couldn't live like some broke college student and calling me her sponsor. I remembered her asking me for money for textbooks, then uploading photos from a luxury spa. I remembered Dad saying, she deserves respect, not you. So I messaged her one word, no. Later that same day, I heard a knock. I opened the door. Dad was standing there, arms folded, looking more like a landlord than a parent. He didn't wait to be let in, just walked inside. You're really going to abandon your entire family over some money? He asked. I looked at him closely, and for the first time, I didn't see strength. I saw fear because he'd lost control. This isn't about cash, I told him. It's about how I went unseen until someone needed something. He rolled his eyes. Oh, please. We gave you a home. Meals. I laughed. And I returned the favor again and again. But it was never enough, was it? He stayed quiet. I asked, do you even know what job I do? Not a word. I nodded. Didn't think so. He walked out without saying another thing. When the door closed, I stood still, breathing in the calm. I didn't feel rage anymore, just finality. By Wednesday, I could tell they were falling apart without me. It began with a call from my aunt, my dad's sister. She hadn't contacted me in years, not since that family event where Laura got praise for getting into college, and I got handed the camera for group photos. Now she was sweet, concerned, acting like we were close. Hey, darling, I heard there's been some trouble. Your dad's just under pressure. With Bill's and Laura's college situation, he didn't mean the things he said. I nearly chuckled. They had brought in the extended guilt team. Classic. Sandra, I said calmly. Did he mention I was covering Laura's tuition? She paused. He said you helped a little. $15,000 per semester. Silence. Also, the gas bill, car insurance, groceries here and there. Nothing. I could picture her doing the math silently. Oh, she finally replied. Exactly, I said. She didn't push further. Just said something vague like, I'm here if you want to talk, and ended the call. That's when I realized the balance had really changed for good. I had always been the invisible support beam holding together their illusion of capability. The quiet piece they leaned on constantly, but never acknowledged, and now the house was starting to give way. That evening, Laura shared a vague post on Instagram, a black background with the message, kindness disappears once the compliments stop. Some of her followers replied with, you good, and heart emoji. I didn't comment, didn't respond, just kept scrolling and switched off my phone. Because while they were scrambling, I was succeeding. That same week, I earned the professional certificate I'd been working toward for nearly a year. My manager pulled me into his office and gave me a raise, a big one. He said something's different lately. Your attention to detail is unreal. What I wanted to say was I stopped pouring into people who didn't care they were draining me, but I only nodded and said, thanks. Then I returned to my seat, opened my browser, and searched for apartments in another part of town. Better ones. Brighter. With natural light. For the first time in a long while, I was planning something for myself. And all of it felt earned. The next family meal happened without me. That had never happened before. No message asking if I could pick up dessert. No backhanded reminder that Laura's overloaded, and maybe I could get the groceries. Just silent. Still, I heard about it. My cousin Anna sent me a picture from across the table. Laura sitting awkwardly beside my dad, both of them looking like they had attended a funeral. The caption said, weird energy. Where were you? You're the only one who makes these bearable. I ignored it. The following day, Laura rang again. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail that I replayed twice just to make sure I understood it right. I know you're angry, but now Dad's saying I have to take out a loan for school, a real loan with interest. He said it's not his issue anymore. I don't know what to do. And there it was. The collapse, not just of their money, but of their alliances. Laura had always been Dad's favorite, but being the favorite only works when you're useful. The second she became a cost, he shut down. That's when something clicked. I was never the failure. I was the resource, the one they kept piling responsibilities on until they thought I'd break. And when I didn't break, they hated me for it. That night, I opened my financial records, every bank transfer, every payment app, every grocery receipt. Over the last 3 years, I had spent just under $72,000 on them. Gone. All while they called me cold. While Laura shared latte photos with cute captions, while Dad made snide remarks like, "Not everyone's meant to be a leader." That night, I did something small, but meaningful. I opened the hallway closet and pulled out an old shoebox. Inside were receipts, kept not for money tracking, but to remind myself I helped, that I mattered. I threw them all away. Not with bitterness, not with sadness, just done because I had given more than enough. And now I was finally about to take everything I gave to them and give it to myself. 2 weeks passed. Nothing from my mom, no call, not even one of her typical icebreaker memes she used to send when she wanted to pretend nothing happened. I had almost forgotten what her silence felt like. Then on a Thursday night, my phone buzzed. It wasn't a phone call. It was a photo, a utility notice, a pink banner at the top warning of shut-off in 3 days. The message beneath it simply said, "Didn't know you stopped paying this too." No hello. No ownership. Just that same blaming tone. Like, I had yanked the floor out from under them when really I had only shown them there was never a floor to begin with. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't say anything. I leaned back on my couch, my own couch, in my new apartment. It smelled like cedar. It wasn't freezing because I paid for the heating. That's the thing about being dependable. People treat you like electricity, always expected, never appreciated until you disappear. That Sunday, my mother came by unannounced. She looked worn down, thinner than usual, carrying a plastic container like it was some kind of peace gesture. "Thought you might want some," she said, her gaze darting up and down the hallway like she didn't want to be spotted. I didn't take it. I stepped onto the porch, shut the door behind me, and asked, "What's the real reason you're here?" She hesitated. "We're falling behind on some bills." "We?" I asked. "Or just Laura?" She paused again. "She's been really upset," she said. "She's struggling in college, says she feels forgotten." A part of me reacted, but not in the old way. Not with regret, not with concern, just with clarity. "Yeah," I said. "I know what being forgotten feels like." Her face tightened. "This is your way of punishing us." "No," I said. "This is me stopping the rescue mission." Her expression changed. For once, she seemed to understand something she had never grasped before. Not when I was a teenager fixing broken faucets, not at 25 handling overdue rent, not at 34 paying college bills, that without me, things fell apart. And maybe, just maybe, I was never the weak link. When the last deadline for Laura's tuition passed, I already knew she hadn't paid. The college emailed me, not her. I was apparently still marked as the backup payer. Funny how that works. Cover someone else's expenses for 3 years, and the system assumes you're glued to them forever. I didn't reply. I forwarded the email to Laura with 2 words, "Your problem." 60 minutes later, she called. I let it ring. Then came the text. "I have to drop out this semester. Are you satisfied now?" I stared at it, not because I felt bad, but because I was genuinely curious. She still believed this was about revenge, that I had done all this to hurt her, but it wasn't that. It was about truth. Laura had spent her life dancing across a wire, but only because I was always the net below her. Now that I'd stepped away, she was finally realizing how fragile that rope really was. A few days later, I received a card from my dad. A literal greeting card, blue cover, printed message. "Let's have a conversation." Inside, he had scribbled, "We understand how you feel, but your sister is going through a hard time. She's still part of this family. We can move forward if you're willing to sit down and talk." I laughed. Sit down at the table. As if I hadn't spent my life at that table. Quiet, dependable, erased, as if they hadn't pulled my chair away the second I asked for space. I didn't reply. I put the card in a drawer, not to revisit it, but to remind myself later that they never actually said sorry. That same week, I felt something shift. I bought a tailored suit, not because I had to, but because I wanted to feel sharp. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man standing there. He looked stronger, grounded, free. I booked a short solo trip. Nothing fancy, just a quiet cabin by a lake. Silence. Solitude. My version of luxury. While they were scrambling to cover bills, I sat beside the fire that weekend, a paperback in one hand, my phone powered off. No calls, no demands, no guilt, just quiet. 2 months after I cut ties, Laura left college, not officially at first. I heard it from someone I knew at the college. She had stopped showing up, missed all her deadlines, and eventually, they shut off her student email. Then one afternoon, she came to my place. No warning, no message. Just a soft knock, like someone asking for help they knew they didn't deserve. I answered. It was Laura, the same Laura who used to move through life expecting everything to be handed to her. But now she looked smaller, exhausted. She barely spoke. Can I come inside? I said nothing. I stepped outside, shut the door behind me, and leaned against the balcony. She hesitated, then joined me, arms crossed tight like she just noticed the cold. I figured you hated me, she muttered. I kept my eyes on the parking lot. I don't hate you. I just stopped giving everything up for you. She flinched like I'd hit her. You could have warned me you were done. I did, I said. You just didn't listen. No words. Just quiet. Then she spoke, her throat tight with emotion. I assumed you'd never leave, and there it was, the truth no one had ever said out loud. They believed I'd stay forever, that no matter how invisible I felt, how drained I became, how overlooked I was, I'd keep showing up because dependable people endure, right? I wasn't supposed to be your fallback, Laura, I said. I was your brother, not a donor, not your personal bank, not a safety blanket. That's when her tears started, software embarrassed. I didn't realize how much you were carrying, she said in a whisper. I thought Mom and Dad were pitching in too. I let out a quiet, dry laugh. They've been sitting back for years. You were their mission. I was their base. She dabbed her eyes with the arm of a hoodie I knew well. It used to be mine. I doubted she even remembered taking it. I'm sorry, she said. It was the first time I'd ever heard that from her. But I didn't say it's fine because it wasn't. Not then. Maybe never. So I gave a single nod and said, all right. Then I stepped inside and left her outside on the steps. The next time I ran into my father, he wasn't shouting. He wasn't puffing out his chest. He was standing in the queue at the bank. I hadn't expected to see him. I was there to close an old savings account, one I'd opened when I still thought I might fund Laura's grad school one day. It felt ridiculous now. He noticed me first. He did that confused glance people do when they aren't sure whether to wave or pretend not to notice. I didn't acknowledge him. He left the line and approached like we were catching up over coffee. That same fake smile he wore when trying to pitch something. Thomas, he said, we should catch up. I studied him. His shoes were worn. He was holding a thick envelope stuffed with paperwork. Stress clung to him like smoke. We've said enough already, I replied. He exhaled. I won't act like we didn't screw up, but your mom hasn't been sleeping. Laura's barely eating. We just want to fix things. You mean now that the expenses are stacking up and I'm not playing janitor anymore? He opened his mouth, closed it, looked down. I didn't realize it had gotten this serious, he finally muttered. No, I said. You didn't want to see it. That landed. I saw it in the way his shoulders dropped. He suddenly looked older. Tired. I was wrong, he said under his breath. It wasn't a full apology, not real responsibility, but it was something. I could have offered him a little grace, could have made it easier, could have opened a door. But instead, I remembered what it felt like. Years of being invisible, used, dismissed, treated like a solution, not a person. So I told him, you don't get to decide when it's over. He didn't argue, just nodded, quiet. When he walked back to the line, he moved like a man who had finally realized the thing he'd built his identity on was never his to begin with. And me? I left the bank that day feeling something I hadn't felt in ages. Strength. It's been half a year now. Laura works at a bookstore. My parents moved out of the house, the one they always said they'd retire in. The family group chat still exists, but it's cautious now, softer. No one asked for money anymore. I never made a scene. I didn't post a long message about cutting off toxic people. I just walked away, not because I was angry, because I was calm. These days, life feels quieter, cleaner, and it finally belongs to me.